What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Today we are going to tell you about our trip to Washington, D.C. We're going to tell you where we stayed. We're going to tell you how we got around to the different areas in Washington, D.C. that we visited. So stay tuned. So we're going to cover quite a bit in this video, so it's all going to be broken up in chapters there so you can access the information you're looking for pretty easily. But we're going to start with the place that we stayed at, the campground we stayed at while we were in Washington, D.C., and that is Cherry Hill Campground. This campground is rather expensive, but it's really easily accessed off of Interstate 495. There's a grocery store only 1.5 miles up the road, so everything you need is going to be right there, centrally located. Cherry Hill is also only 4.5 miles from the College Park metro station.
Yeah, so Cherry Hill Park is rather expensive, as he said, and when we say that, it is $90 a night. If you have Good Sam, you can get a 10% discount for about $81 a night, which is still really expensive compared to what we usually spend. But given the location to DC, and they do have amenities if you're interested in that. We unfortunately didn't have a chance to take part in any of those. They have mini golf there, basketball courts, they have playgrounds, and in the summertime they have water park area with swimming pools. So it is a really nice park, and they do offer a lot for the price. But the biggest thing you're paying for is the location. And they are full hookup sites.
Yeah, the location, like we said, 4.5 miles from College Park metro station. You can get the Green Line and Yellow Line metro from there to head into DC. We're going to cover that here in just a minute. But Cherry Hill also has a bus depot right there on the campground. So if you don't want to drive to College Park metro station, you can just drive up to the front of the park. Or if you're in one of the sites up close to the front of the park, you can just walk to the bus depot. You can get your Metro card from there, your SmarTrip Metro card that you'll need if you're going to ride the Metro. You can get that right from the bus depot or from the office at Cherry Hill. And then you can hop on that bus. It'll take you down to the College Park Metro and drop you off. The fare to ride that is $2 a person. So for us, it would have cost us $6 each way to ride the bus to the Metro station.
And back.
Whereas parking at the Metro station is $4.95 from Monday through Friday. So on the weekends, there's no cost to park there. It's free parking. The first day we went there was on a Sunday, so we parked for free. We were there early. We got a spot. I mean, we got a really good parking spot. The parking garage wasn't full at all. It was almost empty. And then even going back during the week, even though people are parking there to hop on the Metro to go to work, it still wasn't very full. The lower level was never completely full. So, and they have multiple levels there at that parking garage. So, $4.95 to park versus paying $6 each way for us to ride there was a better deal for us. Traffic's not bad. It only took us about 10 minutes to get there. So, it's super close, and that worked out well for us. So, another kind of drawback to Cherry Hill, and it's to be expected, and that's the road noise. We saw reviews where people said that there were certain areas of the park where you could kind of get away from the road noise. I don't see how in the world that's possible. When I would take Nix out like at 11 o'clock at night before we were going to bed, the road noise was incredibly loud. It sounded like there were 100,000 cars on the highway.
Sound like semi-trucks out there.
There was everything. So I don't see any scenario where you're not going to hear any road noise at this park. So we were in site 1316. When we arrived there on Saturday, the park was jam-packed. I mean, it was packed full. Cars parked everywhere alongside the road. Luckily, there was nobody parked directly across from our site, so we didn't have any trouble getting back in and getting set up. But a couple people that come in later on had a little more of a challenge because of all the vehicles kind of parked everywhere along the sides of the road. Everybody was in their site, but it's just so incredibly busy there on the weekend. On Sunday, we noticed some people clearing out, and by Monday and Tuesday, there were only like 4 or 5 campers on our row. So during the week, definitely a lot less busy, a lot less crowded there. So that might be something to keep in mind if you're planning on visiting.
This is a huge campground, very, very big.
So for our first day to go into Washington, D.C. from the campground, it was on a Sunday. So we went up toward the bus depot. We were leaving early before the bus depot was open. So we had to get our Metro SmarTrip card from the actual Metro station. Now, there's a couple different apps that you can download. One is the SmarTrip app that's going to be able to keep track of how much money you have on your SmarTrip Metro card. You can reload money on there, so you don't have to, you'll only have to deal with the vending machines in the Metro terminal. You'll just have to deal with that one time to get your card initially, and then after that, you can just load the money on from the app, which is what we did, and it worked out. It was super simple, super easy. And you can kind of regulate how much money you're putting on there so you don't have a lot of extra money left over. You can't get a refund on your SmarTrip card. Well, that's not entirely true. You can get a refund. So if you live outside, if your address is 100 miles outside of Washington, D.C., 30 days after the last time that you use your Metro card, you can apply for a refund. And then they will issue you a check for whatever is left on your card. So it's kind of a process. We didn't want to deal with that, so we tried to kind of figure it out and try to judge it and time it to where we would just have a very, very small amount left on our Metro cards at the end of our time, and we did a pretty good job. So using that app really helps. You can see your previous transactions. You can see how much it cost you to go from one stop to the next. So that's how we kind of managed our SmarTrip card, so that we didn't have a bunch of extra money on there that would have been wasted. If you've never navigated public transportation, like we have not, we've never done anything like the Metro before.
Yes.
No type of subways or metros.
Yes,
or,
if you've been to New York City, then maybe that's something you can kind of go off of a little with New York subway.
So we've never done anything like that. So this was our first time. I was nervous. We were nervous. We were nervous, but I was probably more nervous than anybody because I just wanted to make sure we could get where we wanted to go. I downloaded the Metro app, and that gives you a map of all the Metro lines, all the different color lines. When you first see it, it looks kind of crazy. There's different color lines going everywhere, green and blue and orange and silver,
red.
So it looks crazy, but as it turned out, once you understand the way the Metro works, it's extremely simple. It's extremely simple. So basically, each train is marked with the last stop on that line. So we were up at College Park. We wanted to go down to Archives Station on our first day. So the train that was going that way, its last stop was Branch Avenue. So we knew that if we got on the Green Line train that was going to Branch Avenue, then that would take us through and we could hop off at Archives Station. That would get us where we're going. So if you know where the last stop is for the train that you're getting on, you can look at the map and you'll see each stop between where you're getting on and the last stop. It's really easy to navigate. Have that little map. That little map helped tremendously so that we knew where our stops were that we were trying to get to. The initial cost of the SmarTrip Metro card is $2 per card. We put $10 on each card, so each card that first day cost us $12. So we spent $36 the first day to get our cards.
So our first stop on day one was the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, and it was about a 4/10 of a mile of a walk for us from the Metro station to get there.
Yeah, so we did a tremendous amount of walking. We knew it was going to be a tremendous amount of walking. We'll tell you at the end of the video what our walking totals added up to. Everybody made it the first day. So just under half mile to the Museum of Natural History from Archives Metro Station. Right beside that is the Smithsonian Museum of American History.
And so the National Natural History one was less exciting, but one exhibit was where like the German rocks were. That I really liked that one. That was cool. The American History Museum, that was cool. That was a good one, and I would definitely recommend. I would recommend both actually. Both were really good.
Yeah, Dylan, obviously big fan of history. That's one of the main reasons why we wanted to come to Washington, D.C. So the Smithsonian Museum of American History was a little more appealing, I think, to us. But they were both excellent museums,
Yes.
both awesome
Both
museums.
well put together.
Yes, and a big bonus is they are free.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't beat that. I mean, when you consider everything that is in there to see, and the fact that it doesn't cost anything, that's a really, it's really amazing, and we're very glad that we took the time to go see those first and kind of get our day kicked off in those spots.
So then, after we were done with the Smithsonian Museum, we walked over by the White House to the White House Visitor Center, which was unfortunately closed. This was on a Sunday still. The museum is open Wednesday to Saturday.
The Visitor Center is located roughly a block or so away from the White House. It's not super close.
Yeah.
So we walked up and around to the front of the White House over there, and that was awesome. That pretty much, once we did all that, we packed our lunch, so we kind of ate it after the Museum of American History.
Yep.
We sat out front. They have some little covered tables, so we sat there, ate our lunch before we started our journey over to the White House Visitor Center. So it was about a half mile from the Museum of American History over to the White House Visitor Center, and then just a little bit further to get over to the White House. So from there, we started our trek back to the metro station, so we could hitch our ride back home for the day. So it was about a 3/4 of a mile walk from the White House back to Gallery Place Station, metro station. That's where we hopped on the yellow line to come on back to College Park. Dylan, how far did we walk on our first day in Washington, D.C.?
So much walking. The most I've ever done in one day. 4.5 miles.
So 4.5 miles on our first day. It was a lot of walking. It was a tremendous amount of walking, and that was just day one. We knew we had a couple days left. We planned to do 3 days in Washington, D.C., and then one day take a drive over to Mount Vernon to see Washington's mansion in Mount Vernon. So that was day one, Washington, D.C., and we got back home, got rested up. Everybody slept really good that night.
So for day 2, our plan was to visit the Smithsonian National Zoo and then all the monuments.
We decided to go ahead and try to drive over and park at College Park Metro Station instead of taking the bus. We heard that the metro stations get very, very busy, so we got there early. Probably a mistake to go early during rush hour when everybody's trying to get to work and school. We didn't really think about that, so we parked at College Park Metro Station. We hopped on the green line. We were going to take it down to Gallery Place, hop off, and then catch the red line train up to Cleveland Park to go to the zoo. Seems simple enough. Yep, seems simple enough. What we did not realize is that on Monday, they decided to cut their rail car service a tremendous amount. The previous week, that we had no idea, they actually had a Blue Line train derail. So apparently they let the trains run and decided Monday's the day that we're going to take all the ones that were the same style that derailed, we're going to take those all out of service. So that backed up the metro service tremendously, especially during rush hour. It wasn't a big deal at College Park. We hopped on, we cruised on down to Gallery Place. We got off, and immediately when we got off, we walked over to wait for the red line train, and there were, I don't know, what seemed like hundreds and hundreds of people.
It probably at least it was seriously probably a few hundred.
Yeah, there were
Tons.
so many people.
A lot.
And that's when we saw the notice that was scrolling on the digital board there that the rail service was going to be reduced. They were only going to be running 6-car trains instead of 8-car trains. So as we waited, more and more people showed up. The train arrives, and as it's pulling up, we're looking inside, and it's already packed.
It's already tons.
And now there's all these people standing out there with us, waiting to get on. The doors opened, and we've never seen nothing like this in our entire life. People were literally, like, just shoving each other into these train cars.
I heard somebody yell, "Push!"
Yes, somebody yelled, "Put like everybody push at one time." We're all wedged in there. We did not partake in that.
Whoop.
We said there is no chance on earth that we were getting in that train car with all those people. I mean, I cannot imagine if something happened, the chances that these people are going to make it out of this train car in any type of calm fashion, impossible. I mean, it's indescribable how many people were stuffed in those cars. So it rode out. It rode out without us. We said we ain't doing that. So
there's still people waiting in the Metro Center too. We weren't the only people who weren't able to get on.
Yeah, a few people decided to take a pass on that.
Yeah.
So at that point, we had a choice. We could either wait another 25-30 minutes for the next train, or we could take a walk to the metro station that was
about a quarter mile away.
About a quarter mile away.
So we walked down to Metro Center, which is about a quarter mile, not far. We went ahead and walked down there. So that station is actually before Gallery Place we were at. So we were kind of hoping by the time we got down there, rush hour should have been kind of winding down a little bit, and we were hoping that maybe getting on before the big bulk of people at the busier stations might help us actually get on and be able to get to where we're going.
Yes, finally.
We walked down to Metro Center.
By now it's probably been about an hour since we even got to the first
it was no problem. We walked down there. It was still busy, but not incredibly insane. Not like that fiasco that we witnessed, at the other station.
Yeah, something that we've never seen before.
So we hopped on there. We went up to Cleveland Park. Cleveland Park is actually the stop that's just past the zoo. There is a zoo metro stop, but each one of those stops is about a half mile from the zoo. So what we had read through reviews is if you go to Cleveland Park, get off at that station, your walk is downhill to the zoo, a little bit easier walk. And then your walk from the zoo to Woodley Park to get back on again is again going to be a downhill walk. So it just makes the walk a little bit easier since we were doing so much walking. We're good with an easy walk. So, the zoo was maybe a little underwhelming for us.
Very.
Yeah, I mean, they had pandas.
Yeah.
and
That's not something you see every day.
And sloth bears. So we did get to see a couple things that we've never seen before. Even at other zoos that we've been to, we haven't been to a zoo in forever.
Yes.
And then they had bison there.
Yeah,
the bison weren't there.
Yeah, supposedly supposed to be bison. This kid was not happy about that.
If anybody has followed our channel, you know that Dylan's a big fan of bison. So he was looking forward to the bison, even though we've seen thousands of bison out in South Dakota and Yellowstone. He was wanting to see a bison again. So
it's been a while.
The bison were MIA. We don't know where they were. There was no signs telling us where they were off to. But the bison
they were non-existent there.
The bison were not where they were supposed to be. So,
and again, the zoo was free, and
that's true.
It was a beautiful day.
Bright blue sunny skies, just fantastic weather. So even though the zoo may have been not quite as good as we were thinking it was going to be, it was still definitely worth the ride up there, especially since, again, it's free. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
So seeing the pandas were cool. The sloth bears were actually pretty neat.
Yeah.
They had a couple pretty neat things there.
They had cheetahs.
You won't typically find in other zoos. So
yeah.
Still a pretty neat place.
And zoos aren't typically free either.
Right, definitely not.
And then after the zoo, we hopped back on the metro. We went over to go see the Washington Monument, and we got to walk right up to the base of it, and then we went to the Lincoln Memorial and saw all the monuments in between.
Yeah, so the Smithsonian Metro Station pops you out kind of right in the middle of town. Washington Monument's right there.
Yeah.
So we walked down to that, and then you can see the Lincoln Memorial from there. Don't be fooled. It looks like it's not that far. It's actually about 1.25 miles to get from Washington Monument to Lincoln Memorial. But you can also see the World War II Memorial in between there.
Vietnam Memorial.
Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So there you can see those as well if you take that walk. Again, it was a beautiful day to go for a walk, so we went ahead and walked down.
And you get to see the Lincoln Memorial too.
Yeah,
Which
so
Dylan was really looking forward to.
Yes, that's one of my top 2 things I was looking forward to seeing.
yep, definitely wanted to see that and walk up there. So it wasn't extremely packed. There were a lot of people there, but it wasn't overly crowded.
Right.
And we really enjoyed doing that. So since it was such a long walk to get there, we decided that we would try out a DC Circulator Bus to get back to the metro station.
Yeah.
So DC Circulator is a little bus line that kind of makes, they have a couple different ones, and they have a dedicated route that kind of makes just like a loop through the downtown area only. So you can hop on there. Normally it's $1 per person. Their card scanner, they take the SmarTrip card as well. Their card scanner was messed up, so they said just get on. So we hopped on at Lincoln Memorial. It kind of looped us around, and it rode us all the way back and dropped us off right at the Smithsonian Metro Station, which was awesome. That DC Metro bus, it would actually also, you could stay on that. You could actually take it out to Arlington National Cemetery as well. So the DC Circulator, definitely something that you'll want to utilize if you're going to be going out to Arlington and don't feel like making those extraordinary long walks between some of the monuments.
And also on day 2, also picked up a Washington, D.C. hat.
So, Dylan saw these very patriotic hats. He liked them. It's about time for a new hat. So, went ahead and picked him up a very patriotic Washington, D.C. hat. Dylan, how far did we walk on day 2?
5 miles.
5 miles, and that was with riding the DC Circulator to get us back to the metro station. It would have been closer to 6.5 to 7 if we would have had to walk back to Smithsonian Metro Station. So it was well worth taking a little bit extra time and riding back to.
Most certainly.
So for our 3rd day, we decided to take a break from DC and head over to George Washington's Mount Vernon.
The drive from where we were at Cherry Hill over to Mount Vernon takes just over an hour. It's only 32 miles, so it's not because it's very far, but traffic is just so incredibly heavy around the whole area that it just takes forever to get anywhere. So George Washington's Mount Vernon is not free. The price for that is $28 for adults and $15 for kids ages 5 to 11.
A little pricey. We were there 3 years ago, but Dylan didn't remember a whole lot from that trip.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't remember really anything.
So when we were there 3 years ago, it was really a very gloomy, cold, rainy day, so we didn't really get to explore the grounds at all. So we really wanted to kind of look around the grounds and visit, go down and see Washington's tomb, which is kind of at the back of the property. So we started our day off with the mansion tour, which was awesome. Did you enjoy the mansion tour?
Yeah, that was cool.
And then we walked down, we saw Washington's tomb, and then we came back up and went through the Education Center and Museum. They have an amazing education center there, all about George Washington, some really cool artifacts there. They also have a pair of George Washington's dentures, which is awesome. Something very cool they did not have there last time that they have this time is a pretty neat coin.
It's a 1792 gold coin.
Yeah, 1792 gold coin featuring George Washington on the front. So this is the only, it's a one of a kind. And it is said to have been a pocket piece for George Washington. So he didn't approve the design for currency, but he kept it and allegedly carried this around with him for a very long time. This coin sold at auction for $1.7 million, and it's on loan to Mount Vernon for display. So very awesome coin, very cool story to go with it. And then they also have an awesome 20-minute film that covers the Revolutionary War.
So our 3rd and final day in DC, which was our 4th day that we had after we went to Mount Vernon, was going to be for Ford's Theater, stop back by the White House Visitor Center since it was open, and then the National Archives.
So again, we decided to go ahead and park at the metro station. We rode into town that way. Worked out great. There was no issue parking there at the College Park Metro Station. So to get into Ford's Theater, to tour the theater, it is a ticketed entry right now. The tickets were $3 a piece. Well worth it well worth it. You go in, they scan your tickets, you have a timed entry. So we got there shortly before it was time for us to go in. They let us in just a little bit early. We head down. The whole lower level is kind of a historical account of what happened kind of leading up to the day of Lincoln's assassination. They have some really awesome memorabilia and artifacts there from that day. Some stuff that they confiscated off of John Wilkes Booth after they captured him. So just a lot of really cool things. They have the weapon that he used. And you know, as we found out when we were there was some controversy around whether that weapon would ever actually be displayed. And you know, we're glad they did display it because it's such a significant piece of history. You know, it is a violent piece of history, but it's still a piece of history, and it was very cool to be able to see that and take that in. From there, you can go up. You can go up into the actual theater. You can go upstairs. You can see the actual balcony booth where Lincoln was sitting at. They have it all glassed off. But you can see that as you're going into the theater. The hallway going into the theater is very cool. They have it lined on each side with a timeline as you walk down, and on one side is a timeline of Abraham Lincoln's day, on the day of his assassination leading up to when he got to Ford's Theater, and on the other side is a timeline of John Wilkes Booth's day as he was plotting his plotting the assassination that day as well. So it's a sad bit of history. It's an unfortunate piece of history, but it's a very significant piece of history that we're glad we got to experience.
Yeah.
So we walked down from there after we left Ford's Theater. We had some time before we went to visit the National Archives. So we walked down to the White House Visitor Center to catch it since it was closed when we were there on Sunday. So after leaving the White House Visitor Center, it was on to the National Archives, which was going to be our last stop for the day, and we were very excited. Very excited. This was kind of going to be one of the highlights of our trip, and you know, kind of finishing our trip on this note.
On a very high note.
Yeah, it was really a great way to finish our trip out and kind of wrap up our whole Washington D.C. experience. About 3/4 of a mile to walk from the White House Visitor Center over to the National Archives. That's also a ticketed entry. You have to go on recreation.gov. You have to pick a time slot. We noticed that when we were at the White House Visitor Center, when we were kind of taking a break, that we looked on there and we had a couple hours until our time.
Yeah.
You know, we were kind of over walking. We were just ready just to go see the National Archives and hop on that metro. Our tickets were later in the day. If we would have waited till our ticketed time, we would have ended up catching rush hour on the way back, which was probably not going to be fun.
That would have been painful.
So on recreation.gov, it said there were some first come first served tickets available. So we walked on over. We asked the lady out front there, the security out front, you know, if we could go ahead and go in. I mean, we had tickets, but we were a few hours early.
We had nothing else to do.
Yeah, she said no issue. We showed them the tickets, and they let us go in. So we got in a couple hours early.
And the tickets are only $1. It may have just been more of an accountability thing of how many people are coming, because there was no problem to go in early.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm not sure. I mean, it only showed a few tickets available when we got them a couple days earlier. But I mean, there was hardly anybody there when we were there. I mean, it was very scarce, not many people. But so we went in. We walked up to the rotunda. We saw the Declaration of Independence. We saw the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Didn't really know what else they had in there in that area. They have the documents leading up to those documents. They have some of the drafts that were corrected. So a lot of really cool documents up there in that rotunda around those other very important documents. And then as we came down, we were going to go down and hit the gift shop there at the National Archives, and in a display down on the lower level, they actually have the Magna Carta on display. So that document is from 1297. So
how about something 500 years older than the Declaration of Independence?
You know, nothing like you know, that was kind of a surprise. We didn't know that was on display there. So we you know, it was pretty cool to see that as well. So definitely one of the coolest stops that we had in DC. Didn't take real long for us to go through and just kind of see everything. So it was a perfect way to end our trip in DC. It allowed us to get back on the metro before rush hour.
And on the final day in DC, we walked 3 miles.
The total amount that we walked over all 4 days, 3 days in DC, and then at Mount Vernon was 15 miles. So
15 miles.
We tracked it all on our Apple Watches. So we tracked all our distances and our routes and everything. So 15 miles, but it was a ton of walking, but it was well worth it. We ended up spending $53.85 on the metro for all 3 of us combined. The biggest portion of that was actually when we rode on Monday morning, trying to get to the zoo. That was during their peak time. The rates are higher in the peak time. And then on our last day there, anything after 3 o'clock is considered peak time. I think we hopped on there around between 3:30 and 4, so that was peak time as well. Yeah. So they really hit you a little harder for that. We ended up only having about $1.50 left on each card at the end, which was perfect. We didn't have a lot of wasted money left on there that we had to try to hassle and get a refund on. The SmarTrip app is definitely the way to go. So on the first day, I put $10 on there. At the end of the day, I looked to see how much we spent, how much we had left. We put $10 on again for the next day. And then I would look at the end of the day, and our last day, we only put $4 on there. So basically, the night before we were going to go into DC, I loaded the money onto the card, and then it'll actually show as pending on your app. And then once you tap your card at the metro station, it loads that money on there for you. So super easy to use. Highly recommend that. Overall, as far as Cherry Hill Park goes, we would definitely recommend probably staying at Cherry Hill to go into DC. It is expensive. There are other parks that are less expensive, but some of them don't have water hookups. Some of them don't have any hookups. And Cherry Hill, you're going to get full hookups. You are going to pay a lot, but you're super close to the metro stations. It's just easy. I think that's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up from Washington, D.C. Man, a whirlwind trip, a ton of walking. We saw a ton of stuff. We were whooped. We were tired, but definitely, definitely glad we came here. Not our typical trip. I think we're ready to get back out in nature, see some wildlife, get around some trees maybe, get away from quite so many people. That'd be awesome. So that's what we're going to do. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you guys down the road.